another video. Today we are on this Ransom's 18-inch Marquis, which has a BSA 119cc 4-stroke engine, or later on they were taken over by Villiers. So I hope this video might be interesting to those that have got one to service, this one has come in for a service, but part of the servicing normally would be servicing the Magneto as well, the Flywheel Magneto. Unlike a lot of modern engines, they just have an electronic coil and there's very little maintenance to them. But the older engines, like this little beauty, has a Flywheel Magneto, so it has a bit like the older cars, it has points and condenser, which do need servicing. They're not difficult to do, but like any engine, if you haven't got a good spot or you haven't got a spark at all, you've got no chance on getting it going. So this video, hopefully anybody that wants to get their BSA Villiers 119cc sloper sparking, hopefully it will be useful to you. So what we're going to do, we're going to go through it, we're going to take the engine cowling off, and then we're going to get the flywheel off, and then we'll have a look at the state of the Magneto. So anyway, I'm going to get you in closer, and then you can see what we're up to. So I'll give you a quick tour of the engine. This is a fairly early one. As I said, it's the BSA version. The Villiers took them over. They're basically the same engine. There's very little changes, but apart from, you can probably, yeah, you can. There you go. You can just about see the BSA sticker. And then if we turn around a little bit, the early ones like this, we'll see if we can find it. On the sump crankcase, there should be BSA somewhere. So we'll try and see if we can see it. It's quite difficult to see, but let's have a look. Try and get you in a bit. Yeah. Let's go around the other side a bit and have a look. So they call this the sloper because obviously it has a sloping cylinder. Let's see if we can see this a little bit easier. So there we go. So I think just between the flywheel, clutch flywheel, you can probably just see it does just about say BSA. So this is the BSA version, which probably one of the best British lawnmower engines made. Beautiful thing. And you've got that lovely big flywheel, clutch flywheel on there that when they're running, beautifully smooth, lovely tick over. They're a pleasure to use. So as I said, this one's come in for a service. So part of the servicing routine would be normally to service the Flywheel Magneto. Obviously the oil will be done and carburetor will be stripped, cleaned and checked. I think on this video, because it's going to be reasonably lengthy, we're just going to concentrate on the flywheel, getting a spark today. Then we'll probably do another video on the carburetor, getting the engine back together and getting it running. So without further ado, I'm going to prop you up there and we're going to start taking the flywheel off as soon as we've got the engine cowling. So let's get started. So we turn the tap off. We've got to take the spark plug out first. Well, it doesn't have to be the spark plug in any order, but it has to come out. So that's so that we can remove the cowling. Next, we've got two screws securing the bottom. One either side. And then let's just get you in so you can see. And then we've got 2 on the top of the cylinder head, 1 there, and then 1 on the stop, down there. So we need to obviously undo those 2. We want for that, so. The BSAs and the early Villiers version had these quite nice manual cutout tabs. The later Villiers had you will have seen them, they've got a little on and off switch on the side of the engine cowling, which obviously has a wire that goes back to the Magneto. We don't need to worry about that. Even if this was a later one, we'd only have to disconnect it, so it's not a problem. Right, so the next thing we need to do is disconnect the petrol pipe. So let's have a look. You can probably see it from there. Yep, we're going to disconnect the fuel pipe from the carburetor. And then we're going to do the same. Let's swing you around. There we are. So we're going to do the same from the fuel tap. We're going to disconnect the HT lead there. And at this point, the whole cowling should come off. That's good. Right. And we've left our fuel pipe in the cowling, as it should be. So, there's our flywheel Magneto under here. So let's get a socket and we'll remove the big centre nut. There we are. This is a normal thread. Cut that off. So the flywheel, you can actually service, it's a bit tricky, but you can clean the points. There's a little inspection cover there. 1 screw, you can remove that. You can clean and set the points. It's a little fiddly, but you can do that. But really the way to do it is to remove the flywheel, and then we can have a good look at what's going on inside. We can have a look at the coil, we can have a look at the condenser, and then we can get to the points properly. So this is obviously on a tapered key shaft, so we don't have to worry about upsetting any timing. So we've just got to take this little screw out. All that does is it obviously stops this cup here. I know it's done up by a nice tight big nut, but it stops it spinning. So we just remove that. And then we want a puller. So let's see. We can do this. I've got my little Suffolk thing here, which it might well fit, I think. Yes, that's off one of my Suffolks. I know there's, and you can do it, but don't be tempted to strike the crankshaft to get the flywheel off, like so. You can do this with a lot of engines, but these, they are, I've seen it done before. The crankshaft
is quite brittle, and if you hit that, you almost certainly will break it. So the best way is a puller. It takes a bit longer, but you could make something. This is just a Suffolk, the clutch starter casting. I've sort of modified it a little bit, but I think this will probably work. So what we're going to try and do, we're going to screw this in, and then see if we've left the nut on there, and with a bit of pressure, I'm hoping this will get this off. So let's have a look. Right, so we're going to try and get this evenly. I should really have another nice long one like those two there, but I'm hoping it's gonna come off okay with those. So it'll come off with a bit of a bang if it does. So what we're going to do, I think it might be like the 12. Right spanner. There we are. Right. So that didn't. Sometimes they come off with a bit of a bang. But as I say, that one wasn't too bad. But you can see what I've done to get it off. Obviously, I've placed the nice thick bit of metal, and then we're sort of pulling the flywheel against the centre of the crankshaft. So, yeah, you could make something, adapt something. You could, and I've used them before, you could use a three-legged puller. I sort of prefer the Suffolk idea because you're sort of pulling on the centre. You're probably less likely to break the flywheel. There's a possibility you could probably break it with a set of pullers like that. So I sort of favour this type thing as we've used. Right, now let's have a look. We're going to have a look under and then see what it looks like in there. So you can see it's a keyed, tapered flywheel, so we don't need to worry about upsetting the timing. So I think the first thing we're going to do is just see if the magnets feel okay, because they don't often, but yeah, the magnets are nice and strong, so I think that's okay. And there's no damage on the flywheel, so I'm just going to have a look at the points here. So let's have a good look at the points. So see if they're opening and closing. Yep, they seem to be. Good. So I think what we're going to do, we are going to test the coil. If my tester is working, I'll try and test the condenser, and we're going to clean and set the points as well. So once we've done those, hopefully we will get a good spark on it. So firstly, we need to disconnect everything from the coil. We'll go for testing the coil first. We're going to also take the points off because we're going to clean them. I think maybe what we'll do is let's get the points off first. So this one I'm undoing secures the points, and the adjuster, I'm going to put this little screw in the flywheel, that one there, that's an eccentric one, so that will set your points gap. So at this point we should just better wriggle it off, and then hopefully you can see the wires. We're just going to disconnect those. In the case of this one having the old-fashioned manual type earthing strips stop, we've only really got 2 wires to worry about, and one is obviously the condenser, one is the coil. So we've got the 2 wires. It looks like this one has been soldered. Sometimes they are. Let's have a look. They've been soldered together. Yeah, they have. So what we need to do, we need to unsolder those, otherwise it's going to be difficult to test that coil and the condenser. Look, let's plug soldering iron in. We're going to let that heat up first, and then we're going to have a look at the points. So hopefully you can see them all right, but let's see if we can get you in there. So that it's obviously it's the tip that we want to look at, just the flat surface between the 2 points, which is what we're going to clean. If also, I mean, luckily I've got a new set of points to just compare them with. We're just going to have a look and just see. They do burn out, the points, and you will need to replace them if they're burnt. But what we're just looking for is how much meat is left on the tips. And that's a new set. And it looks like there's still quite a bit of meat on that. So I think rather than spending the customer's money unnecessarily, we're going to clean those points up and reuse them. So let's get you on the vise, and we're gonna clean these up a bit and see if we can make a reasonably good job of these points. Let's have a look. Right, so I'm going to put them in the vise. Does make it easier. Let's do that. Open and close them. Right. Fine. So a little bit of emery paper or something. I know you probably can't see it quite as easy, but it's a bit easier for me to do this. So let's do that. If they're really pitted and burnt, you know, you'll find that once you clean them, there's still pits in them. If that's the case, then you've just got to replace the points. Right, hopefully you can see, but the tips are, you can see it very well. difficult to see really, but yeah, they're looking quite good. The surfaces are smooth and there's no pits. So I think these will be okay, these points. So I think what we'll do now, we will go back over, see if the soldering iron's heated up and we can unsolder those wires and then separate the condenser from the coil. So let's get a little bit of solder. They don't have to be soldered, these, but I think it was something that was done quite often. Okay. So, hope you can see. Right. So, right, now then. So the black one is the condenser and the red one comes from the coil. So I've got my faithful old tester here. We're going to set it up and then test that coil. So we've got a vintage mower and a vintage coil condenser tester. Right, so we'll get this set up and then we'll see what the state of the coil is like. So this one goes on to the high tension lead. Seems to be quite a good connection. We don't want this to touch ground. And I seem to remember that this yellow wire, or white, it probably was once, right, so, and this one is going to go on that coil to points wire. Okay, do we need to earth it? I can't remember. I don't think we do. Let's have a look. Right, okay, so let's have a look. So we've got our tester here. Let's go down on that and we can have a closer look. Put that away. So, right, so let's go on to coil. Okay, so, right, let's see what happens. Switch it on. So, right, okay. So we can see there's a nice steady spark and we're loading the coil up. If that was very intermittent, we would obviously have to replace the coil. Let's just try that again. That was lead touched ground. So let's just plop that out the way. Try that again. So let's have a look. Yep. So we've got a nice healthy coil. So that tests the coil. Now I know I've had trouble with this will test condensers as well. I have had trouble with the condenser side of the tester, but we'll have a go at testing the condenser, because the condenser, believe it or not, is also very important. If you've got a faulty condenser, that will cause you, let's put it on the right one, that will cause you problems as well. So you do need a good condenser. So let's just find somewhere fairly good to earth that. So let's have a look. We'll probably do that, just earth that. So let's bolt this earth wire to there. That's tight. We just need an earth. Well, let's do the little points screw. It's very looseable, very fiddly. So let's just put that in. So I don't think we need anything else to be connected on the tester. So I've just got to think how it all worked. So let's go back to the tester. Let's have a look. So we have got, there we are. So I think condenser, I think it's probably that one. Let's try that one. So, okay. So what we're going to try and do is charge it up and see if that condenser holds a charge. So let's just see what happens. Okay, so there we are. Don't know if you saw that little spark. It's yeah, that condenser's holding a charge. So looks like my condenser side is working also. So yes, it's holding a charge. So the nice thing is, we can reuse the coil, we can reuse the condenser, and we can reuse the points, which is good. So let's just disconnect that. Put that over there, and disconnect that there. That's good. Right. So. Good. So, yeah, I mean, with the condenser, I have got another one, but if in doubt, and you can't test the condenser, for the sake of the cost of a condenser, I would be very tempted to just put one on. They do go down, these condensers, and they will cause you spark problems. So if there's any doubt, the condenser's the cheaper part, the coil's the expensive part. So if there's any doubt, it's worth just putting a new condenser on. Like I say, they're not a lot of money, so it's worth doing it. The coil, as I said, is the expensive part. The coils don't often go down, but like anything, they can do. So, so yeah, in this case, it looks like we can recycle quite a lot of it. So that's good. So anyway, let's get back onto the rest of it. So we're going to put the points back in a minute and then set those up. The only other thing to look for, which does sometimes get overlooked, is, and it is very, very important, the eccentric points cam. Let's just wipe some of it off. These do wear. And I've had them where they wear enough that if they are worn enough, it will affect your points opening and closing, and it will affect your spark. In some cases, you won't have a spark at all, but let's get closer and have a look. And you can see there's a high spot there, which is sort of there. And even though there's a little bit of wear on that one, but it's still got its high spot. So I think we don't need to replace that either. Obviously, if it was worn, this whole collar will come off the crankshaft. It's not part of the crankshaft, so you can replace that bit on its own. But yeah, worth looking at because, as I say, if it is very worn, it will cause you spark problems. So let's get on with this job. So what we're going to do, we are going to put the points back in, and we will set the gap, and then we'll see if we've got a spark. So I think because it's quite fiddly, I'm just going to put these wires into the points before I screw them up, because they are very fiddly. I don't think I'm going to resolder them. I don't think I really need to. Might just cut that coil one back a little bit. Get a nice contact. Okay. Right, so let's have a look. So the points are going to go on like that. We need to get these wires this way. Quite fiddly, don't mind saying. Let's tighten that up. No, I haven't got that in there, so it might be that I'm going to solder it, I'll see. Bearing it back enough to catch it. I think I'm going to solder that because I think it's a bit thinner. It's probably just going to keep coming out. So let's twist it together if we can. Get the soldering iron warmed up again. Wipe some of my oily fingerprints off. clean the end of the soldering iron up just a little bit, might just help the cause. Sure, I think I've got it. We'll leave the soldering iron on just for a moment. Yeah, I think I've got it. So, right, let's have another go. So we'll try and get these wires in there. Tighten those up. And then points back in place. Stay in there. Yep. In the case of the later Villiers, we would have a third wire, which would obviously come from there, and it would disappear through the rubber grommet, and then it would end up back at the switch, which is on the cowling. Right. So make sure that's sitting there properly. That's it. It's got a little circular bit on the back of the points, and there's obviously a hole on the back plate, so you can sort of feel when it's in there. So, right, now, if we have a look at the flywheel, it gives, which is quite useful, it gives you the, or should give you the points setting. And there we are. I think I'll clean it back and then we can see. $18,000. So it's difficult to see, but on the points, the flywheel, we're going to set the points at 18,000. So what we need to do, we need to find the highest spot, which is, let's go back, about there. We're going to get our feeler gauges. Let's just nip that one up. And see what sort of a gap we've got. So, this set has got an 18. I mean, I can make it up, but I think there should be one here. Let's have a look. Yeah, right, 18,000. Just going to wipe them. Just see what we've got there. Slightly loose, so let's just go around. Make sure they close. just a tiny bit on the loose side. So what we do to adjust them, we slacken our securing screw, and this one's the one that's on the cam, so by twisting it clockwise or anti-clockwise we'll shut the gap. So can't remember which way it is, but we'll just try it one way or the other. Let's make sure that's a bit looser. So it looks like it's anti-clockwise to shut them down a little. Almost gone a little bit too much. Too much the other way. It's a whisker. Yeah. Yeah, that feels nice. We'll just check it once more. Nice and tight. We'll go around once more. Yep. So I think probably at this point what we'll do, we'll get just a little bit of paper, because we've been fiddling around and probably slightly contaminated the points with any oil that's been on the feeler gauges. What we're going to do, we're just going to wipe the points through, so we'll shut them down. Open it up, shut it down. There we are. So we've got that off. So I think the only thing we need to do now is, let's have a look, see if we can see it. Should be a little felt oiler. You can see it sandwiched between the condenser and the points. We just need to put a little dab of grease on that. That just keeps that, that lobe lubricated. So let's just get a little tiny whisker of grease. And then just put a little dab on that felt. Right, so the next thing we need to do is we just need to make sure there's no grease on the tapered crank. Looks like there's nothing going to rub. Everything's nice and tight, I think. Okay. So what we're going to do, we're just going to put the flywheel on loosely. Well, we're not going to put the nut on just yet. We're going to see if we've got a spark. If we've got a spark, then we can go ahead and go on to the next stage. So let's get the HT lead in a place where we can see if we've got a nice spark. Right, so I don't know, hopefully you can see. We're going to sort of rest it up somewhere. Just keep it away. So let's have a look. So go. Yep. So I don't know if you can see it, but we have got a spark. So let's have a look. Let's go up a little bit. So let's put that somewhere where we can, let's do that. You can see, hopefully. We're just going to hold it away. I'm not going to get too close to it because I don't. And then what we'll do in a minute, we'll put the plug on. There we are. So we've got a spark. So I think at this point we can put the starter cup back on, and we can put the nut and tighten it all down. The only thing we mustn't forget is this little screw here. I don't think it matters which one it goes in. Put that back. And then you can see, as we said, it locates the starter cup. Make sure we've got that all fairly square. I'm just going to tap this up. Torque wrench, and then obviously the HT lead, you can see it sort of goes at the back of the fuel tank. There's a bracket, so it stays that side and then keeps clear of the flywheel. So there you go. I think the video's going on a bit, and we've got a spark, which is good. Obviously the testing we've done with it, you can test coils. I'm not so sure about condensers, but you can test a coil without proper coil tester, but those type coil testers are probably the way to do it. But it can be done, but like I say, the condensers, they're very cheap. If you're doing one of these, I would just replace the condenser as probably part of the course. I'm just fortunate that we could test it and we know it's okay. But they're nice things to work on, and we've got a spark. So the next process will be, I think we're going to take the carburettor off. We're going to strip the carburettor, clean it out, check the jets. We might put a new bit of fuel pipe on it. There's a few more servicing items we need to do to the engine. We'll have a look in the tank. We'll see what that looks like. Hopefully it's not too rusty in there. And then we'll probably have a look at the starter, have a look at the condition of the rope, and then oil the spring. And then obviously the engine can go back together. And that would be, once the oil's changed, that will be more or less the engine serviced. So, but that was sparks today and flywheels, and I hope it was useful. I hope you enjoyed it, and it's a treat to work on such a nice bit of fine engineering. So the next video I think is probably going to be possibly finishing this off, and then there's a little progress on the Ransom's Anglo-Paris restoration, and we'll get back into that as well. So there's plenty to get on with. So yeah. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.